Everybody? Zach back here with another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. Believe it or not, this is our third time recording the intro. So, give me if I forget what I've said before, but basically on this episode, we're going to be doing some lists. We've got Nate's birthday to celebrate. That's going to be a lot of fun. Now let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
What's up, guys? It's Nate here. Excited I got to pick one of the topics for today's episode. I think everyone got really creative with it, like judging by what I saw on Twitter and the lineups and everything. So I'm excited to talk about that.
What's up, guys? I'm Connor, the co-host with the most, and all I can say about our one of our lists, the first one that we did on Twitter, is that everybody on Twitter is wrong. You know, saying that I had like the worst lineup. No, y'all are wrong. And you'll hear why later.
All right, guys, and what's going on? This is Eric, your ranting co-host. Although it sounds like Connor might be the ranting co-host tonight, we'll see. Looking forward to debating these guys on our two topics. And Nate, happy birthday to you, man!
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so before we start our list, I got a couple of shout outs and then a question for Nate. But Jackson, he's one of our longtime subscribers and friends of the podcast. He updated his Twitter bio, and I'm not going to confirm or deny the validity of what he said, but the link is on the screen. I'll read it off for anybody not watching on YouTube. It's twitch.tv/Clutch Crew Sports. His tweet or his Twitter bio was follow Clutch Crew Sports on Twitch or you will have 70 years of bad luck. So we didn't tell him to write that. He just came up with it. I'm not sure if that 70 years of bad luck is true or not. It's up to you to decide. But
well, I mean, the thing is it worth risking the 70 years of bad luck?
Yeah, seriously.
Just follow us and don't even take the risk.
Yeah, I agree. So like I said, we've got another top 10 planned. We've reduced it down to 2 topics because the last couple times they've been going on pretty long. So hopefully this is be an hour or less. But Nate suggested one of the topics that we're going to start out with, and then we've got an NFL one when we get to it. And Nate, it's your birthday, and I was looking through my pantry, and believe it or not, I found some French's crispy fried onions.
Yeah, there it is.
And this is a favorite freaking snack.
This is a throwback to the snacks episode. Nate had these pretty high on his list, so I gotta ask Nate, because I saw the original, and then I saw this like purple kind, that caramelized new flavor they call it. I don't know if you've had that or not, and then if you have, you like it more.
I have not tried. They look pretty good. They look pretty tasty. Caramel. They're still crispy though.
Yeah, I haven't.
I wonder what the difference is.
It hasn't been opened yet. I don't want to be the first one that break the seal and open this thing, but but yeah, it's apparently a new flavor.
Nate was telling me that these were a good snack to eat, so
yeah, no, it caught my eye because normally I just glanced over these things. I did have some of the other kind. They were pretty good, to be honest. I can see why Nate likes them.
Yeah, they're every once in a while, you bust open the top of one of those and take a few handfuls. They're pretty tasty.
I can say I can't relate to that.
Well, Nate, I have a follow-up question then, since you haven't had these new caramelized ones. Susan just brought to my attention that she said she doesn't know if they still make them, but that they used to have a cheddar onion something with this French's onions. Have you had that before?
I haven't had that either. I usually just have the original, because that's what we get for to making recipes and stuff. And I just take all the leftovers and eat them. But honestly, I don't know. Those sound pretty good.
Yeah, she said she doesn't think they make them anymore. But if you happen to find them, give it a shot and let us know how it goes.
do a food review here for the next podcast.
Well, hey, I will say that one thing that the caramelized onions have going for them is that the picture of the cheeseburger is bigger on that one. So
They're obviously meant more for the burgers, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, now, Nate, your whole idea for this top 10 modified to be top 5, it's a little bit confusing to, I guess, the average viewer, but why don't you just tell everybody what your inspiration was, what made you come up with this idea, and then like go over these rules here for us?
Yeah, so I basically for my birthday I was able to pick like a top 10 or something. I was trying to think of like a creative idea that we hadn't like done already and wouldn't be specifically like, just another like top 10 like, quarterbacks or something like that. And I was thinking about like the new Space Jam with LeBron, so I just seen some like new details about that and I was like, what if we had like a fictional like basketball lineup, like pick your starting 5 out of, superhero characters and movie characters and stuff. So basically like came up with that and just had a few rules, like left it a lot of room to like be creative, but the only rules are just it's got to be a movie character, like human or superhero, but it can't be a movie athlete. So you can't pick Jordan from Space Jam. You can't pick the white dude from Hoosiers who shoots all those 3-pointers. Like it's got to be an actual like anyone else. They just can't be a basketball player already. So it's basically the fictional game, like hypothetically be played with full NBA rules. So there's like fouls, like there'd be refs if this actually happened, and court would be regulation size and all that. And then the team you had to pick must consist of 5 players and 1 coach. Like we didn't specify positions or anything, so like you don't have to have a pure point guard. I'm sure like probably like I don't know, speaking for myself, like it definitely kind of factored into the decisions, but you didn't have to have any specific lineup or anything. So yeah, it kind of just left a lot of room to be creative on this one.
That is for sure indeed. The possibilities were endless with coming up with these different lineups. And Nate, since this is your birthday episode, why don't you
I was like, before Nate gets to his list, update on Space Jam. I still have not seen it.
Oh
man, it's definitely a classic. Definitely got to check it out. Like great 90s.
I'm sure Eric is like silently fuming.
I'm just shaking my head over here in silence. That's what I was doing.
Is that going to be like? We gotta have something planned. Like once I see Space Jam, there's gotta be like a big like woohoo like party pop stuff.
We'll do like a Space Jam episode.
Ooh, true.
All right, Nate, tell us about your team here.
All right, so for my team, kind of went. There weren't obviously, like I said, there aren't like required, one of each position like traditional lineup or anything like that. But I kind of went. My mindset was kind of like making a small ball kind of Golden State sort of lineup. Kind of a little bit of positionless basketball going on here, but I'll start with my first guy. My point guard is gonna be Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Got into watching that on Netflix again, and remembered how quick and talented he is. Obviously, if you haven't seen the show, he's an airbender, so he's got control over like air currents. So basically, he can pass to anybody on the floor, like do some crazy stuff passing the ball, like get anybody open. So definitely like he can score on his own. So he's got some great skills, and he can jump with the air powers, but really he's like a facilitator. Like I don't think you're gonna find one too much better than him. So then going on to number 2, my shooting guard is this guy. Might be, if you're watching the YouTube, he might be a little bit unfamiliar to you, but this is Taskmaster. He's a Marvel villain who was supposed to appear in the Black Widow movie that would have came out 2 weeks ago if it wasn't for the coronavirus. But basically what his power is he's got the ability to like replicate any basically he can look at something, like watch an action and then repeat it like perfectly. So in the comics he uses it to like copy like Captain America or whoever, and then like come up with a fighting style that can help him beat them up and whatever. But in this situation, I'm just gonna have him sit down and watch a bunch of Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving and Ray Allen, and basically give him a perfect 3-point jumper, perfect handles, and just have him go crazy out there. So he'd be the guy getting the passes in the corner and like nailing open threes and all that. So he's basically you can kind of go like Hawkeye or whoever here, but this guy's got a little bit more in the sense that he can be like a perfect accuracy shooter. Plus he's got the he can learn the handles and all the other skills too. So that's my shooting guard there. And then I've got Anakin Skywalker as my small forward, small forward, basically 100% because of his hops. Obviously didn't work out too well for him at the end of episode 3, but my dude's got that force jump, so he can dunk from probably the 3-point line, I would bet. I don't know, we'd have to see it in the game, but so he's definitely got some ups. Like, you know, he's like LeBron, he's the chosen one. He can dunk, he can pass pretty well, obviously with the force. Probably help him get some steals out there, I would imagine. Take the ball away. So he's definitely a must have for this lineup. And then my power forward, a little bit on the shorter side, but it's the T1000 from Terminator 2, basically the upgraded model of the Terminator from Arnold in the original one to this guy who's basically like he's made of like liquid metal, so he looks like a person, but he can like stretch and is bulletproof and indestructible and all that. So definitely not someone you want to run into in the paint. He can like stretch to block shots, get rebounds, set screens and all that. So definitely a pretty nasty guy there. And then for my center, I've got Hagrid from Harry Potter. Definitely like probably not the most obvious option, seeing as the responses I got on Twitter for this one, but I don't know, I had to throw him in there. Like, definitely a high character guy, good locker room guy. He's also like 8'5", I think is what his like whatever official height is. I googled it just to make sure. He's like 8'5", like 400 pounds, like pretty beefy guy. I don't think you want to run into him in the paint, even if you're a superhero. Like, so he'd be my guy, like setting screens and getting rebounds and all that good stuff. So kind of rounds out the 5. And then my coach, I've got Professor X from the X-Men movies. I don't think you can get a better game plan than from the guy. I mean, I don't know, Zach's coach might have him beat there, but he obviously can read anybody's mind, so he knows what's going to be, what defense is going to be played. So I don't think you can really draw up plays too much better than the guy who can, know what the defense is thinking at all times. So I think he's going to get a good plan to get all these guys involved and get some buckets out there. So that's my team. I like them. I feel pretty good about that.
All right, there you go, guys. You heard it here first. Nate's starting lineup for movie characters. So very, very cool lineup, man. I do like your team a lot, man. I gotta say, you got some studs on your team. So we'll move on now to the next lineup. This one's gonna be Eric's team. So Eric, tell us about your reasoning for your picks here.
Yeah. So when I first found out about this topic, my mind just thought, I've got to build the most powerful team possible. So that's where I went for with this. And Twitter agreed with me that out of the 4 of us, that I have the best team. So thank you, Twitter. We didn't fully agree in the last episode on a lot of the this or that, but you had my back on this one. So thank you. So but I feel like also with my team, it's not just that I have like all powerful people. I feel like a lot of these players would benefit me in the game as well. So for my point guard position, I went with Ant-Man from the Marvel Universe. And the reason why I went with him is because he can shrink down small to the size of an ant, and then he can also, any object he's holding or touching, he can shrink down as well. So if he's holding the basketball, he can shrink down so small to the size of an ant where nobody can see him, and then he can get to anywhere he wants on the court and then either pass it to someone else, or if he gets to an open spot, take the shot. He can do whatever. And in addition to that, while it's not as ideal for him, he can also grow to a super large size. I mean, even as tall as a building. So if he needed to do that, it's not something I would want him to do because that seriously drains his energy when he does that. But if we got desperate and we really needed some stops or something, we could have him do that, and nobody's going to score on him when that happens. So then at my 2 guard position, I went with Jean Grey, and the main reason why I picked her was because, I mean, she's one of the most powerful mutants from the X-Men universe, but the main reason why I picked her is because she can literally manipulate any object. So if someone's trying to like drive by her, good luck with that because she can just take the ball out of her hand without even touching you. So good luck scoring on her. And then I picked the Flash. I mean, the obvious reason is because of how fast he is. The amount of transition buckets that we're going to get with this guy on my team is going to be insane. But in the same way, it also works the other way because when we're on the offensive end of the court, it doesn't matter where he's at. And when the other team gets the rebound, he can just instantly get to the other side. So teams being able to score transition points on us is going to be really limited and really difficult. And to make a little counterpoint against Nate's team is that the Flash also can make an invisible aura around him, around his body that can protect him from air friction. So I feel like that would benefit me against Aang and his airbending abilities.
That's true.
So Flash is, most people, like when I was reading on Twitter, which I appreciated the people that defended my lineup and talked about the Flash, but they did only really talk about his ability for the offensive scoring. But I think he's going to be an amazing defender as well that would be underrated. And then Silver Surfer also has super speed, so he's going to get me just as many transition buckets, help just as much on the transition defense. That's 2 defenders that are always going to be back no matter what. So I feel like, and transition scoring is such a key ingredient to success in basketball. So I like having that. And I mean, Silver Surfer's abilities are just ridiculous with all the different things that he can do. But the other reasons why I think he would help with this specific situation, with it being a basketball game, he can also, similar to Nate's coach, he can also read minds as well. So he's going to be able to read what the other team is trying to do before they even come down the court. And then he also has the ability to cast illusion, so he could trick players on the other team into thinking something else is happening that isn't really happening. So, and he would be doing all of this without even touching anybody, so it wouldn't be a foul or anything like that. So, and then Thanos, I mean, obviously it's an OP choice, but you know, when you're going for the championship, you want to win, you want to have the best available. And obviously he's known for his superhuman strength. He's going to be able to back down anybody in the paint. You know, good luck stopping him if he's backing you down in the paint. And we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, and although Nate, I don't know how you feel about it, but Connor and Zach were both telling me that they think Thanos would foul out of the game really quickly. But I have to disagree with this because
wow, really?
Thanos, I mean, Thanos is a master strategist. Okay, he's not like the Hulk or somebody like that who's just going to run around angry and reckless. Like if I had picked the Hulk, I would have a really hard time explaining why he wasn't going to foul out of the game. But Thanos is smart. He strategizes. He plans. He doesn't let stuff get into his head easily. He's not just gonna run out there and start chucking people into the crowd. You know what I mean? He's gonna be smart. he's gonna play effective. And another reason why he's not gonna foul out of the game is because of my coach on the bottom down there. I went with Doctor Strange. 1, I mean, he's a genius, but 2, he also has possession of the Time Stone. So barring all of the stuff I've already mentioned, if the other teams were to start having success and start doing something, Doctor Strange could just easily rewind time and then make the necessary adjustments and get us fixed. So like if Thanos were to start fouling, he can just rewind time, call a timeout, be like, guys, we need to calm down, Thanos, get your head together.
Okay.
Because I can anticipate that you're going to start fouling. So get it together, man. Calm down. Don't do that, which I don't think it would come to that. But so I literally, with this time stone with Doctor Strange, even have a plan B prepared were something to happen and my team start having problems. So,
well, I have a question for you about the time stone. So if with the time stone, if you're saying that Doctor Strange is going to have it, does that mean you're not going to let Thanos have it? He's not going to have the full Infinity Gauntlet?
Well, Thanos has the gauntlet in the picture there, but I was planning on having the game be played without him having the gauntlet. I didn't want to get like so overpowered with this, but I mean, Thanos wouldn't, because most of the stuff on the gauntlet like would get him into foul trouble anyway. Like if he's got the Power Stone, he's gonna knock somebody out of the arena, stuff like that. So, but I mean, having the Reality Stone would be nice because he could alter the realities for the opponents. But no, I was gonna have Thanos go into the game without the gauntlet, just using his natural abilities. But yeah, no, Doctor Strange he's the keeper of the Time Stone, so he will have it, and we'll be able to use that to rewind time if necessary. So, while I do feel that Zach has the best coach, I feel like I didn't want to just copy what Zach did, so I came up with somebody else. But I feel like I have the best team here.
All right. Before we move on to the myself and Connor's list, I'll let Connor just go at Eric here with with his team, because I know, Connor, you've got some problems with Eric's team. Feel free to take some shots, man, if you want. I gotta take some shots too.
I mean, I'm not gonna spend too much time, but I'm gonna give some like short reasons on a couple of them. Like, obviously with Thanos, like I still think he's gonna foul out. Like, he's just so. And I was talking to Zach and Eric about this too. It depends on which Thanos shows up to the game, because obviously throughout the movies we saw two different Thanos characters. Like in Infinity War was Philosopher Thanos, and in Endgame was Warrior Thanos. So Philosopher Thanos, while still obviously like super powerful, he was the one that was really planning stuff out and seeing the end game and blah. I know that's like a pun right there, kind of, but he was seeing the end game and seeing the possibilities and planning everything out. Whereas Warrior Thanos, like, yeah, he obviously still had the intellect and everything, but he was a bit more out of control. Like, especially when things started going wrong, he started like, really panicking and like, just going out of control. Whereas like Philosopher Thanos, even when stuff was going wrong, like, when Vision was getting like, the Mind Stone disappeared, or like when, like they were actually starting to beat him when they were on Titan, he still never panicked. He was still cool, calm, and collected and kept going. So if Warrior Thanos shows up to the game, then he's definitely going to foul out. And I still think he'd foul even if it was Philosopher. Then with Jean Grey, the problem with Jean Grey is that if she ends up turning into the Phoenix, then everybody's going to lose, because the arena's going to burn up and the basketballs are going to be gone, and it's just going to everything's going to be gone.
And then we're all going to blame Eric's team, so then he'll lose.
Yeah, right. Everybody's going to die. Well, everybody might not die, like not the superheroes, but everybody watching and all the, everything like that is all going to die. So that's pretty bad. And then I feel like with the Flash and the Silver Surfer, I do agree that like their super speed is great for like getting up and down the court. I just feel like they wouldn't be able to do that with the ball enough, because I feel like that would create a lot of traveling violations. Like I think someone mentioned that too.
No, the point with that is that, I mean, literally what they could do is they could say if we're on defense and we're at the three, they can just hang out on the perimeter on the wing, and then say Thanos grabs the rebound, Thanos can just chuck it towards the other end of the court, and then they're down there. They just catch it and lay it up. They don't have to.
I definitely agree with that point. I was just saying, like, they can't be doing too much dribbling, because that's going to cause a lot of traveling violations. But yeah. I definitely agree that is perfectly acceptable. That they could just like go, hey, I'm open, woo.
Like I said, they don't have to get open. They just.
Right.
Or anybody else can just chuck the ball down there, and then they'll run down there and catch it before anyone else can get down there.
Right.
So.
I know.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, Thanos is pretty big. Him throwing the little basketball, I mean, that's pretty small
Which
body
steroid,
size
right?
relative. Like, I don't know. You
And
start to lose
so,
accuracy when you throw little paper balls out, you know?
so to dispute Connor's 2 points about Thanos
Well,
and Jean Grey.
I was gonna say I got one last
Okay.
point for you.
Okay, I'm
My
listening.
last points about Doctor Strange and the Time Stone is that I feel like if we're playing this game under standard NBA rules, they wouldn't allow him to have the Time Stone because like that's just cheating. Like you can't just reverse time. So like I feel like it's kind of the same thing with like Charles Xavier. Like I know someone mentioned this on Twitter too about like reading minds. Like I guess like reading minds, yeah, you can do it, but if it's one thing, like but if you get caught doing it, then
Yeah.
that's gonna be like a really bad technical foul. So
Yeah.
that's my thing with Doctor Strange is I feel like they wouldn't allow him to have the time stone because that's just straight up cheating to reverse time. So
I
That's
agree.
basically just me in 2K when I'm playing franchise mode and I lose. I just
yeah, right. And you
quit
just, like,
and play turn my Xbox off. And try it.
Reset. Don't save it.
All right. So Connor hammered Eric's list pretty hard, and he said a lot of things that I was going to say. So before we move on, I'll just give Eric a chance to respond.
Well, this is the thing is about the difference with the Philosopher Thanos and the Warrior Thanos. So with Philosopher Thanos in Infinity War, he was in control and was able to plan out and do everything that he wanted to do. Whereas in Endgame, when you saw Warrior Thanos, everybody got, sorry, Zach, if this spoils anything for you. I know you haven't seen it yet, but everybody got brought back from the snap. And then Thanos was just kind of thrust into the situation, and he didn't really have time to prepare, come up with his game plan. And that's why he was more reckless in Endgame as opposed to in Infinity War. But this is a basketball game. Like our team is going to have time to study the opponents we're going to go up against. He's going to be able to come up with all my team's going to be able to come together and come up with a proper game plan. It's not just going to be like, all right, get out there and start playing. You know what I mean? So we know who our opponents are. We know how to strategize against them. He's going to be smarter and be able to be more in control. And then with Jean Grey, I mean, it would have to take something like really devastating or insane for her to turn into the Phoenix. Like somebody close to her would have to like get killed or something, and that's not going to happen in a basketball game. So she's not gonna
Hopefully not.
her emotions are not going to get so crazy that she turns into Phoenix because like if somebody scores 2 points, you know what I mean? It's not going to be, she's going to know going into it that it's not that serious of a deal, and we'll be able to keep her in control. You know what I mean? Like if the Bulls could keep Dennis Rodman in control while he was wrestling with WCW, and skipping practices during the NBA finals, and still keep him in control, then we've got this with Jean Grey. She's not going to turn into Phoenix. We're good, guys. We're good.
Okay.
That's what happens when there's a buzzer beater. Like, the buzzer beater.
All right, guys. We might get back to Eric's list later. I don't know. We've got other lists to debate about and stuff.
That's what happens when you have the winning team. You have to get most.
You do open yourself up to some.
I'm like the Warriors when they got KD. I knew I was going to get a lot of hate from the guys for that team, but like I said to Twitter though, thank you.
Yeah. So you've heard the first two teams, and now you're going to be introduced to God Squad. That's what I've named my team. I've given my team a name. I think we're gonna all have jerseys and let's say God Squad on them.
Are they gonna be white?
Yeah, they're gonna be white. But let me go through my team here. So kind of like Nate, I want positionless basketball, but also there's some guys that fit at different positions and stuff. And I'm not surprised I lost on Twitter because I felt like a lot of my people compared to some of the people that Eric talked about in a typical fight or power match or whatever you want to call it, like they would just be obliterated. But like when we're talking about basketball, it's a really finesse type of thing. Like I don't want to have a big monster running down the court. or anything like that. And I want to have good powers, but not like not powers that are going to get you ejected from the game, like reversing time or something like that, or reading minds if you get caught. Like, so I went with a lot of good guys on my team, a lot of guys that God would want, and I know a lot of teams always say, a lot of players in real life are like, we're God's team. We're playing for God. Like, my team is literally playing for God. Because
when you win the championship, you are going to thank God first.
Yes. It's actually going to be God and the coach combined as one person. Because, they're always like, who do you think first, coach or God? Like, for my case, it's, the same guy. So that's Morgan Freeman, coaching the team as God. Had to get that out of the way first because, God Squad brings a lot of questions. And I'll go through my team 1 through 5 here. So at my point guard spot, I've got Violet from The Incredibles. I like her ability to become invisible. I think that's going to be pretty good, to be the hidden enemy, that just steals the ball out of your hands or whatever. And also she can make a force field. I know some of these people's powers are pretty insane, so I'm not sure if it would stand up, but let's try it. Maybe God can help her out on that. And then and then because a force field is pretty nice to have around you. And then I've got the cobbler here, and I know a lot of people might be looking at this picture today and then seeing the movie and be like, wow, man, you put this guy in your team?
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler. This guy just drinking coffee right here. But no, the good thing about this guy, and I don't know if you guys have seen the movie or not, but basically the whole idea with the movie, and I'll spoil it kind of, but he basically wears other people's shoes and then becomes that person. So I think what we're gonna do, Nate talked about how, Taskmaster and stuff, but I'd rather have the original guy. So if we need a Steph Curry situation, the cobbler puts on Steph Curry's shoes. If we need Michael Jordan, LeBron James, any current player, Shaq, like, it doesn't matter the player, but there's great players out there. We can rotate guys out in and out for what we need. But I do want to have some humans on my team because, this game was made by humans. I think they'd work out pretty good. So
I was going to say that something tells me that Thanos' boots are going to go missing before the game starts.
Yeah, so I really like that ability to just plop on someone's shoes. And this is a creative way to kind of get around Nate's rule. And I asked him to make sure it was okay. He was like, yeah, that's creative. So, we can wear an athlete's shoes with the cobbler and get that and become that person. So I like that. It's pretty creative, but Adam Sandler being a cobbler is not going to be playing in this game. I'll tell you that. Then my small
Adam
forward.
Sandler shoes.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I do think the Sandman can. If we need some hard fouls, I feel like he would give out hard fouls. I'm not gonna lie.
He's gonna be like your sixth man.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on to my small forward here. I've got Spider-Man from obviously Marvel and all the Spider-Man movies and stuff, but I like his ability. I think he's pretty athletic here, and the webs help, man. I'll tell you that. Putting a web on a ball and then like shooting it up to the rim, like, I feel like that's pretty good. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think webs in this game can help out a lot. Obviously, you can't get too crazy webbing up people and being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man because that'll get you fouled out. But with God as our coach, all these other good teammates around him, he's a good guy. He's not going to web up other people as much as he probably wants to. Some of these villains on here, but but no, the web to the basketball to the rim, I think that's a cool idea. Like this artwork here showing of him. And then you don't have to deal with the traveling because he's not taking steps in the air, so that gets around the Flash dilemma. And then with my power forward here, my number 4 guy for Fantastic Four, obviously Mr. Fantastic here. I gotta say about him, the thing that really draws me to him for my team is I really like his length, as you can tell. He's probably got the best length here. I mean, Nate's got some guys too, but this guy, he can stretch pretty far. He's gonna block all kinds of shots, and he can also stand at like the 3-point line and probably dunk it. So it's pretty cool. I like the versatility with him. I think he'd be athletic, and I like the length, man. I gotta say, when you play basketball, you need length. So these little jabbing arms combined with the invisible violet, that's pretty good defense right there. And then I want some more just pure human on my team, man. This is God Squad. He made humans. So I got Tarzan here. I like Tarzan, man. I think he'd be really good at basketball. Very athletic. Obviously grew up in the jungle, swinging on vines and stuff. Kind of got a connection going on with Spider-Man. Like, I don't know, maybe he can help with. Maybe he can glide on the webs or something. I don't know, like swing on the webs. I don't know if that would work or not, but we can try it. I don't know, man. It's wait, what were you saying, Connor?
Try it in practice.
Yeah. And I just think he's a good all. I feel like as just a human here, he's good, and he's gonna get the job done. Very athletic, and his jungle friends will be at the game watching, rooting him on. I like that. It gives them some motivation. I'm gonna make sure to bring those guys in. But I like Tarzan, man. I'm not gonna lie. I like him. I'm putting him on my team here with all these other guys. They're all good guys. I like that. Like Nate said, good character. That goes a long way. We're God Squad. We got to be good. So I got a friendly team here. But like I said, if you were voting on Twitter and you had no idea who the cobbler was, now you know what his ability is. Obviously everybody knows Violet, Spider-Man, I think, and the others. But I don't know, man. I like this team, and you got God coaching them. I like it, man. I like it. We're a solid team. We're not gonna get that mad if we lose, but we're gonna be competitive, I think. So I'll let
Zach. Before we move on, though,
okay,
because I didn't know who this cobbler guy was. That's why I obviously figured it wasn't like just Adam Sandler, but so I had to like research who this guy was because I didn't know. But one like potential flaw though that you have with him, from what I researched, is that yes, when he puts on the shoes, like he becomes that person, but it has to be a size 10.5 shoe specifically.
Ooh.
So if LeBron wears a size 12, he's not going to be able to turn into LeBron James, or like I know Shaq wears like a size 20 something. So he's not going to be able to be Shaq or Thanos. So
yeah, I forgot. I didn't actually remember that part in the movie, but it's been a while since I watched this. But
so that could limit your ability with him.
It could, but I'll counter that by saying that God's gonna get LeBron a 10.5 pair to have, and then LeBron's got that. You know what I mean?
Shrink LeBron.
God can find shoes for everybody. I believe if he really wants to, I think he can. So I appreciate your concern, Eric, but Sandman, he's gonna be just fine. Okay. Any other concerns?
Other than the fact that you chose God to have your coach, like.
Yeah, I mean,
I wanted a good team, guys. I wanted a good team, man. I didn't want no Devils team or anything. I want a good team. So, good versus evil. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Anything else, guys?
Do it though, man, because you're normally the like win at all costs. Like like I'll do whatever I got to do. So did this.
I disagree. When have I ever done that, Eric?
Having this like high moral, high character.
I think I'd have to agree with Eric on that one.
I agree with Eric?
Honestly, I think all three of us, like you, me, and Eric, as long as we've known each other, we're all pretty much win at all costs for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, we're always so competitive. Like, I gotta win, like. So just here you'd be like, oh, we won't be upset if we lose. We're all good character guys. Like, this just doesn't seem like you at all, man.
As long as
no, man, I want a good, solid team here. I think good's better than evil. Like, if you've got the right morals and everything, yeah.
God's doing something to Zach.
Oh boy. All right, let's
in the
move on.
Superhero world that works. That doesn't always work in basketball, though. I mean, Dennis Rodman won 3 championships. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of easy when you've got a team with that on the same team as Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm just
All
saying.
right.
But I mean, Michael Jordan was known for like being a douche to his teammates too. Like, I mean, he wasn't the most like high honorable player. So,
All right. Let's take a look at Connor's lineup here, guys.
Yeah, so I mean, I will say with my lineup, I'm very happy that, I think it's a very strong lineup without having anybody like super OP like Thanos or God on it. So as God is the coach, so I mean, I like my lineup. So I mean, so I also did point guard to center. So point guard, I've got Captain America. I feel like if you want someone to be the leader and the floor general on your team, there's no one better than Captain America. I mean, not only is he a nice, tall, and strong point guard, which is a bit unusual for most point guards, but I mean, there's no better motivator, there's no better leader. He's going to be able to run the floor better than anybody, in my opinion, out of that we have on these teams. I think Aang was a good one too, with like being a distributor, but I think Captain America's got a better strategic mind, and he knows how to plan stuff out better. Obviously, he's not going to have the shield for the game because I feel like that would cause a lot of fouls, but he's still, at the peak of human potential. So he's definitely super strong. So then I went with Loki as my shooting guard, mainly kind of for the same reason that Eric had the Silver Surfer, like that ability to just create illusions, and that way, like you can think he's in one place, but then he's not. You go over to guard him, and he's over in the left corner, but then all of a sudden, like he's shooting from the right corner. You don't even know what's happened because he's created such a perfect illusion. So, and he's definitely not a slouch when it comes to the strength department, and he's a capable warrior as we've seen in the movies. So, and also Loki has the ability, kind of like Jean. He's kind of got that similar Jean Grey ability that he can manipulate people and cause them to. He can take the ball away from you without even touching it, and cause you to just drop it right where you're standing. So I like that with Loki. And then I decided to go with Mace Windu as my small forward. Like with Nate having Anakin Skywalker, I think having a Jedi is a great addition to your team, and like being able to use the Force and being able to having the best hops out of anybody. But I feel like the reason why I think Mace Windu was a better choice than Anakin was I feel like Mace Windu, kind of the same thing with that I talked about with Thanos being unstable. I think that Anakin Skywalker is also very unstable, whereas I feel like Mace Windu, he's probably one of the most stable Jedi there are because he's able to walk that line between light side and dark side so well and not, do anything rash or make bad decisions. So I think having him, he was probably. I also considered using Yoda for the team, but I think Mace Windu would be a bit better because obviously Yoda, like he has his moments where he's super, crazy, moving fast and powerful with the Force, but I feel like his durability at 800 years old is a bit lower than Mace Windu. So, and Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber, so you can't go wrong with that. And it's Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
So then for my power forward and my center can kind of be interchangeable. I couldn't really decide like who to put where, but both of these guys are over 7 feet tall. I think General Grievous is officially 7'1", and I put him at the power forward. So obviously he's not a jet. Like we see him use lightsabers in the films, and he's been taught by Count Dooku, but he's obviously not a force sensitive being. I mean, he is still technically a human, but he's even more Darth Vader than Darth Vader. Like he's basically a droid, but he is still technically a human. So, and he's a great strategist. He was the leader of the droid army. You don't see it too much for him in the movies about him being like athletic and fast and quick, but if you watch the Star Wars Clone Wars series, he actually is quite athletic and he can move pretty well. So, and also the other main reason why I have him is he's got 4 arms. So if you want to like block a shot or grab a rebound, having 4 arms is definitely very helpful when it comes to that. So you can certainly grab those, and I mean, you're not going to be backing him down in the paint. And finally, I have Colossus as my center. I was thinking about having, like, when I was first doing this, I thought about the Hulk, but kind of like what Eric said, I don't want to have anybody unstable at my center position that's going to foul out. And Colossus, while he's, made of metal, so, if you run into him, you're just going to get flattened because I can't remember exactly what his like body is made out of, but you're gonna get flattened if you run into him. Kind of like in the Deadpool movie, whenever Deadpool punched him, his wrist like instantly broke when he punched Colossus in the face. So, and also very sturdy, very steady, and the thing about Colossus is that we've seen in the Deadpool films that he's very calm. He's very under control. He's actually a bit of a nice guy. Zach always wanted to have nice guys on his team. Well, Colossus is kind of the epitome of good guy when it comes to the Deadpool franchise. So he always plays by the rules. He's going to play fair. He's probably the least likely on my team to foul out because he's always going to play by the rules. So that's pretty important. You're not giving the other team easy chances at the free throw line or anything like that. So Colossus at center. And then finally with my coach, I was kind of upset that Nate took Avatar Aang for his team because I kind of wanted to put him in my lineup. So I had to take in my opinion, the best character from the Avatar Last Airbender franchise, and that is Uncle Iroh as my coach. Obviously, Uncle Iroh is a very capable firebender. I mean, he's a firebending master. And towards the end of the Avatar series, we see he gets really buff and really athletic, but he is definitely in the older side of things. So I cited all that wisdom that he always imparts on like Zuko and all the other characters. And, even just like if there's one guy, maybe other than God, that can pick you up after, a tough game or after a tough series, like Iroh will always make you feel better and he'll remotivate you to go back out there and do your best. And, he can make some nice tea for you if you get upset and the tea will make you feel better. So, had to
Not
go.
Eric though.
No, obviously not. So I'd have to go with the obvious choice for coach for me was Uncle Iroh.
Very cool, very cool. And I'll put the Twitter results on YouTube here. So we did want to see, according to Twitter, if we made like a tournament with our teams, who would win. Now, I will say Twitter's not always right. They're not right a lot of times, so take it with a grain of salt. But this is what the people said, so I want to put it out here. So we've got Nate's team versus my team in the first round matchup, and most people said Nate's team would win. Not going to get mad. I know people don't know who the cobbler is, but yeah, I still like my team's chances. And then Connor's team versus Eric's team. Eric's team obviously took the win here. And then
just
the champion
Thanos, and boom, Thanos. I'm gonna vote Team A.
Yeah, I really think Thanos would foul out, but then the final results here: Eric's team versus Nick's team.
What is the reasoning for Thanos fouling out? Because I've just heard about because Warrior Vote got a little careless, but I've already explained why that wouldn't happen. So, what's the reason for?
I mean, he's just so big. Like if Spider-Man's trying to make a move on him and he hits him or something on accident, that's going to be a foul. Even if it's not intentional, if he makes contact with a guy trying to take a shot, that's a foul.
Yeah, but he's not going to
we are using today's NBA rules, so I mean, this is the 80s. He would be perfect, but right now, I mean, you have LeBron go up against Thanos. He's getting that call 100 times out of 100.
I mean,
good reason, Nate. That's a good reason.
Yeah, well, the fact that Thanos is I think funny enough, actually, I think Hagrid is still the tallest out of everybody because Thanos is slightly shorter than Hagrid. Yeah. But I mean, like you said, Thanos is just so big, and I feel like it would be so easy to take charges on him, just kind of step in front of him just a little bit, and then just up, that's a charge. Like Zach said, he's just so big that it's hard to control that. Like Zach said, even if it's unintentional, if you go to block a shot, you end up just smacking them in the face. That's a foul. So
yeah, that's my reason. But
yeah,
I mean, the casual fan on Twitter is not going to hear that. So if you guys did see this now and you want to revote, let us know. Tweet at us if you like one of our teams more than what you voted for. I mean, maybe you voted Nate's team, but you now after hearing this, you like Eric's team more. I don't know, but Eric's team did win the Twitter poll. I did want to put that in here. You might see on the left here. It's been a losing streak.
Thanos comment.
But congrats to Eric's team for winning. Obviously, we'll never know, but this is a fun thing to consider. So Nate, good job for picking this topic. Definitely got us thinking on this, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Definitely came up with some good ideas there.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll move back to the real world now and talk about our top 10 lists for this upcoming NFL season's power rankings. So we'll go 1 to 10 here with all of us, and just give some quick reasons on why we've got our teams where we have them at. But Nate, why don't you start us out here with your list?
All right, so the number 1 spot, not too surprising about the Chiefs. Obviously, it's unlikely that they go back to back winning Super Bowl again. It doesn't happen very often in the NFL, but just looking at every team, I don't think they've lost a whole lot, and the Super Bowl team they did have was pretty nasty, talent-wise. So I think they're just gonna be using the information we have now. I think they're gonna be just as good next year. Then number 2, I've got the Ravens. A big factor for me in this one was Lamar taking another step forward, which after his season last year, I know that sounds difficult. There's definitely some areas that he can still improve upon. Plus, if what I heard about, what came out about Hollywood Brown and his injuries last year, if all that was true and he really was playing through that stuff, I think he's going to be even more deadly this year at receiver. So I think that offense takes another step forward, coupled by an always pretty strong defense there. So I'm going to have to go with them as the number 2 spot. Number 3, I've got the 49ers. I wanted to put them lower just because I do think they're going to take a step back this year. But just looking at the overall talent they have on their roster compared to the other teams available, I couldn't really justify placing them lower than 3. I think they're a pretty safe bet to do well next year. I don't know if they'll make it to the Super Bowl, but definitely one of the top 5 teams for sure. Felt pretty comfortable with them there. The number 4, I've got Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, a whole lot of hype this offseason about Brady going there and linking up with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And at first, I wasn't buying into the hype, but then I really looked and I realized that their defense does have some pretty strong players there. So I think if Brady does go down to Tampa and get a little bit rejuvenated, re-energized, which I've seen his social media posts definitely seems like he has already, I think that offense could take a huge step forward and they could be a pretty dangerous team. Number 5, I've got their NFC South competition, the Saints. I think they're going to be right on the Bucs' heels. I mean, obviously, those two competing for the South this year. I think Drew Brees, as long as he doesn't take a big step back this year in terms of like arm strength and any of that, I think they should be just where they left off last year. Definitely a playoff team, in my opinion. The number 6, I've got Tennessee Titans. I'm not in the party that was a 1-year deal last year. I think this roster from top to bottom is definitely has some studs there. Ryan Tannehill is not, I don't think, magically a top 10 quarterback now, but I definitely think he's serviceable. We got Derrick Henry in a contract year. I think he's going to go off. Plus the O-line is always solid, and they've got a good defense with some kind of underrated guys down there, like Kevin Byard and those type players. So I like them to definitely, I think they're my front runner for the AFC South this year. Sorry to all the Jags fans out there, but I think they're going to win that division and definitely be a playoff contender. Number 7, I've got the Vikings. Again, kind of like the Titans, they're a little bit underwhelming at the quarterback position for a team ranked this high, but I think overall roster construction, I really like what they have on defense and the parts that they have on offense. I think they're not super flashy, but I think they'll get the job done. And I think the NFC North is going to be theirs to take this year. And then going on to 8th, I've got the Seahawks. This is always like a tricky one just because Russell Wilson is so great, but I still don't think they've done enough to surround him with talent this year. So I think he'll do his part, obviously, to have them at least in playoff contention, contending for the NFC West. But I don't think there's going to be enough contribution from the other players to get them over the hump and into the Super Bowl contending realm this year. My number 9, I've got the Bills. If I went with my heart, I would like to put the Patriots in this spot, but I don't trust the roster enough this year. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they're a top 10 team, at least on paper right now. I had to put the Bills in this spot just because if Josh Allen takes a step forward, which is definitely like a big if, they could be a pretty solid team. They've definitely got the defense already. They just need a little more consistency out of their offense, which I think we could potentially see this year. And then rounding out my top 10 is the Steelers. I think, again, like the Bills, the defense is already there for them with TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, and those guys. They just need Big Ben to come back healthy and stay healthy for a whole year. And I think they're definitely in good shape to contend for the AFC. So that's my top 10 list. Obviously, it's pretty early. Still a whole lot of stuff to potentially happen between now and September, but feel pretty good about this.
Yeah. Very good, man. Let's go over to take a look at Eric's list. Eric, tell us about your top 10 team.
Yes, I won't go into too much detail into mine, just one, because of the time, but then also two, like mine is pretty similar to Nate's. I don't have too many differences, so I don't want to say a lot of the same things he said, but I also have the Chiefs at number 1. I mean, defending Super Bowl champs. I feel like not too much different happened with their team, meaning they're still really good. So because of that, I got them at number 1. Baltimore at 2 as well, just because I feel like they were so dominant all season, but then they had that terrible game in the playoffs, which I think like Zach had brought up a great point when we were talking about it, when we were doing our playoff predictions, that Baltimore having so much time with the starters resting really hurt them more than it helped them. And I think it showed in that playoff loss to the Titans, but I think they're going to rebound and still be a really good team. And then my 3 through 6 is pretty similar as Nate's. I guess 3 through 9 really, but so I've got the Saints at number 3. I'm looking for Drew Brees to get it done this year. This might be a little more of a liking bias why I have them this high, because I'm a big Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara fan, but the Saints just always seem to be really good every year, so I feel like I couldn't go wrong having them up pretty high. Number 4, San Francisco. I worry about Jimmy G and his abilities. It seems like he's inconsistent, so I don't know if he's going to be able to get the 49ers back to the Super Bowl, but they do have a stacked team, so it could definitely happen. Number 5, Seattle. I mean, like Nate said, when you got Russell Wilson, you're in a pretty good position. He always seems to do well every year, but I agree with him as well, though. It just seems like they don't get enough talent around him for them to be able to make that Super Bowl push. But and the NFC is pretty loaded, so we'll see how they do. And then at Tampa, I got Tampa at number 6. I know Zach has them number 1. I don't think Connor had them in their top 10. I've kind of got them more in the middle. I definitely think with the additions that they brought in, they're going to be a much better team than last year. They're also going to have a quarterback that doesn't throw 30 interceptions. So it's a big beneficiary for them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do. I mean, they're obviously going to be one of the most intriguing teams this upcoming season. And then, unfortunately, I have the Titans at number 7. I was doing everything possible to not put them in the top 10. I really didn't want them to be in there. But out of all the remaining teams, I just feel like I feel like they still are the best team in the AFC South. I feel like the Colts could give them a run for their money, but with Phillip Rivers at this age, and it just seemed like he was really regressing last year, I actually, in a weird way, think that might have hurt them more than it's going to help them, like over playing Jacoby Brissett at starter. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Colts do, even though I didn't put them in the top 10. But I like the consistency of Tennessee more than them. So that's why I put Tennessee in the top 10 and not the Colts. And then the Vikings, I look for them to rebound. Another team that's kind of shaky at quarterback, but they have a lot of good talent around them. So we'll see if Kirk Cousins, now that he finally won a Monday Night Football game, if maybe he takes a step, but I don't know. And then
he didn't win. I thought he just won a primetime game. He's still 0-8 on Monday night, isn't he?
He won some sort of.
Yeah.
He was like 0-1,000,000.
I believe so.
Like a primetime playoff game.
Yeah, he did get a playoff win, which so maybe he takes another step. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see. I still don't have my hopes up too high for him. But number 9, I got the Bills. They're a team I really like, but the key for them is going to be just to see how Josh Allen does, to see if he improves this year or not. This is his year where he really needs to take that step forward and show that he can be a franchise quarterback. And if he can do that, then the Bills will have a lot of success. But if he plays like he did in the second half of that playoff game against the Texans, then that's going to really hinder the Bills. So they're another team like the Bucs where it's like I'm really intrigued to see what they're going to do this year. And at number 10, I got the Packers. I know none of the other guys had them in their top 10. They were, I had like the Colts on my mind, the Cowboys on my mind, the Steelers on my mind, and then the Packers, like they were like my last 4 I was debating on for the top 10. But I went with the Packers just because last year everyone doubted them so hard. Like we all had them either last or third place in the division. And so obviously they did a lot better than that. But they were vulnerable in that game against the 49ers. So I don't know how they're going to do this year, but my reasoning for not picking them to be last year in their division, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, it seems like no matter how crappy a talent he has around him on the offensive side of the ball, he still finds a way to get results. So give him a lot of credit there. I don't know if I just went robo or something because I'm echoing really bad, but that's my top 10. So I pass it off now.
Okay, well, I know. Well, yeah, I know my top 10 is next. We seem to have lost Zach, so I will keep it going. I remember my top 10, so. But yeah, I'll start it off by just saying that I know there's 2 teams that all 3 of these guys had, and I don't have on my list. So I guess I'll explain why I don't have those 2 teams. So the first one was the Vikings. I did seriously consider putting the Vikings on my list, but I mean, the thing for me is that, like Eric and Nate were talking about, I just don't trust Kirk Cousins at all. And also the loss of Stephon Diggs, I think, is going to be really big because now Adam Thielen's going to be facing all the double teams and all the double coverages and stuff. So I don't think that they're going to – I still think they're going to be good. They're definitely going to be fighting the Packers for the NFC North, but I don't see them as quite a top 10 team yet. And then – for the Buccaneers, obviously. Oh, well, there's Zach.
Sorry.
But yeah, so for the Buccaneers, the reason why I don't have them is that, I didn't buy the hype with the Cleveland Browns last year, and I'm not buying the hype with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. I mean, I think Brady and Gronk, their time is done. They're going to be washed up and not the same players. And I just don't trust the Buccaneers defense. Like, they definitely have talent on their defense, but when you look at, their performance last year, it just wasn't as good as it probably should have been with all their talent. So I'm not buying the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hype. They're not in my top 10. Obviously, that's going to go complete opposite when we go to Zach, but that's probably going to be a debate for another episode when we talk about the NFC preview. But so I guess I'll go 1 through 10 since that's what everybody's been doing. I actually put the 49ers first. I think mainly because obviously the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, but really the 49ers kind of beat themselves near the end of that Super Bowl loss. The game plan on defense changed for some reason, and I don't know. I just feel like they beat themselves, and I think they had some good additions in the draft. So I trust the 49ers more than I trust the Chiefs just because of their defense. Obviously, Jimmy G is shaky, but if they can keep the run game going, and if they get uh, uh, they get some of the wide receivers going, then the 49 and the defense keeps performing. The 49ers are going to be a juggernaut again. I had the Ravens at number 2. I also don't fully trust Lamar Jackson. I don't trust that the Ravens are gonna develop into this powerhouse team. But at least for right now, I think it'd be really hard to vote against the Ravens. I mean, he's the reigning MVP after all. So, and he does have good talent around him. He's got Mark Ingram there in the backfield, and the defense is obviously still very good. So it's kind of hard to bet against the Baltimore Ravens going into the season. Although I'm really interested to see how the AFC North shakes out this year with the Steelers and them if Big Ben comes back like full, and looks like his old self. So then I got the Chiefs at number 3, reigning Super Bowl champions. It's just the defense that still worries me. Obviously, they added Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a running back, but I feel like at some point that defense is going to crack more than it has been, and then the Chiefs are just they're not going to be able to put up enough when they start facing better defenses like the Ravens and the 49ers and the Bills. So that's why I have that number 3, but obviously you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes and that offense. That offense is just ridiculous, so can't put them any lower than 3. I've got the Saints at number 4. Once again, like I said, I don't buy the Tampa Bay hype, and Drew Brees looked just as strong as ever last year, so I'm looking for good things out of the New Orleans Saints, which I know this is, like I said, this is going to be a debate for a later episode, but I think right now, right at this instant, I told Zach I was going to do this, but that I'm locking right now that the New Orleans Saints are going to win the NFC South and not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So and I think they're going to be a Super Bowl contender again this year. It's hard for the Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas on offense, and I think their defense is underrated. So New Orleans Saints at number 4, Seattle Seahawks at number 5. Russell Wilson's great, but I'm also on the same page as Eric and Nate that they never put a good enough supporting cast around Russell Wilson to really make the Super Bowl contenders. I think the 49ers and the Saints are better teams all around. Then I got the Bills at number 6, mainly because obviously this is what the Bills have been waiting for. The juggernaut is out of the way. And don't get me wrong, the New England Patriots are still going to be strong, but they're obviously not the same team. And this is finally the year for somebody like the Buffalo Bills to break through in the AFC East and take the AFC East. So, and I think Josh Allen will take that next step now that he finally has a true all-pro number 1 receiver on his team with Stephon Diggs, because the poor guy has not had anybody to throw to the past couple of seasons. So now he's finally got someone to throw to in Stephon Diggs. So, and teams can't sleep on Cole Beasley and John Brown. They can't just double cover Stephon Diggs all the time and expect to get away with it. So Buffalo Bills number 6. The Steelers are number 7 because I do think Roethlisberger is going to bounce back, and they already have a Super Bowl caliber defense. I mean, if you need any proof about that, Lamar Jackson, his statistically worst game last season came against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was, I think he had 1 passing touchdown, but he had 3 interceptions, and he only ran for about 60 yards and no touchdowns. And they had to go to overtime to win that game, which really the Steelers beat themselves in overtime in that game without Roethlisberger. So the Steelers are going to be really tough if Roethlisberger comes back 100%. Then, yes, the Tennessee Titans at number 8. I don't think that it was a 1-year deal. I believe they're going to keep it going for 1 more year. I think it's going to be really close between them and the Colts, but I give the Titans just the edge because even though Ryan Tannehill's not the greatest quarterback in the world, he didn't look as bad as Phillip Rivers did last year, so I'll give him the edge. And obviously, Derrick Henry looked like a total beast in the playoffs. So, then the Cowboys at number 9. I think the Cowboys. I think they're going to be a top team in the regular season. I don't think they're going to go far in the postseason. I mean, the offense is going to be good. Obviously, I've said before, I think we've all said before, that we think Dak Prescott is overrated. But when you're flanked by Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and one of the best offensive lines in football, then you're going to go places. You don't need a spectacular quarterback to make stuff happen with that. So, and obviously the NFC East is a very weak division. So I think the Cowboys are going to have a much easier time taking it this year. The Eagles definitely aren't as strong as they were last year, in my opinion. So, and the Redskins and Giants definitely didn't get much better. So I think the Cowboys are going to have an easy time winning the NFC East, but I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs, mainly because of the defense is still not very good. So, and then lastly, the Colts. Like I said, I was debating between with them and the Vikings and the Packers, kind of like what Eric was saying. But I put the Colts here mainly because I think Philip Rivers, although he looked like he regressed a lot last year, I don't think he's going to be asked to do as much in Indianapolis as he was in LA. Because, I mean, Austin Eckler had good, he was good, but I think Philip Rivers still had to do a lot of work with passing because the Chargers defense kind of fell apart last year. So they kind of got behind and they needed him to step in. The Colts have a better defense than the Chargers do. And also, obviously, Marlon Mack is a very good running back. So, you're not regressing too much there. Actually, you're probably improving from Austin Eckler. And then obviously the Colts, like the Cowboys, have one of the best offensive lines in football. So Philip Rivers isn't going to be on his back all the time. He's going to have a lot of opportunities to make good decisions and get in the right mindset. So I'm really looking forward to the fight between the Colts and Titans for the AFC South this year. But now I'll pass it on to Zach.
Yeah, Connor and I disagree quite a bit. A lot of things Connor said I do take issues with. As you can see, our lists are very different. But I'll go from 1 to 10, and I'll start with my number one team. And I know people are going to be thinking, oh, you're just living the hype, buying the hype and all this stuff. But I really do think the Buccaneers are going to be the best team, I think, coming into the season for sure. And when it happens, if it hopefully does happen, not only I think this defense, everybody knows about the offense. In the draft, they added another tackle to help that offensive line, which isn't great, but it should be improved with the new addition from the draft, and also having Tom Brady instead of Jameis Winston is a benefit to the offensive line because Brady gets the ball out so quickly. So I feel like he's not going to take as many sacks or stay in the pocket as long as Winston did. He'll be much smarter with the football as well. Like you were saying, 30 interceptions, it's hard to win games like that, but they were, I believe, 7-9 or 8-8 last season. So they did pretty good without Brady to begin with. So it's not like they're coming in off a 3-win season or anything. And the defense, I think, is severely underrated because it's progressed a lot. The defensive line, I would say, is one of the best in football when you've got Shaq Barrett, who led the league in sacks last year. And we saw how dominant he was with getting strip sacks. But this line is super deep. You've got Jason Pierre-Paul. You've got Ndamukong Suh, some older guys there. But you've also got some young bloods like Vita Vea anchoring the middle of that defensive line, being a great run stuffer. So that defensive line is going to be great, I think, both against the rush and against the pass with getting pressure with guys like Barrett and Suh and JPP. But it can also stop the run with Vita Vea. And then the linebackers on that team are great. I mean, Levante David's super underrated. He just makes the Pro Bowl every year and nobody knows about him. And then Devin White showed really good signs as a rookie last year. So, and now we'll get to the secondary, I guess, which a lot of people will say is the biggest weakness of the team. But they've spent like 3 or 4 second-round draft picks on corners and safeties the past couple seasons. And I think we finally saw that in the second half of last season watching Tampa Bay Buccaneers games. That secondary took massive steps in the second half of the season. I think it's only going to get better coached by Todd Bowles, who's a great defensive coordinator. Not a great head coach, but a great defensive coordinator. So you've got all that. You've got the offense we know about. Mike Evans is one of the best receivers in the game. Chris Godwin, super, super good. And then the tight ends are just ridiculous with O.J. Howard, Gronk, and Cameron Brate. Gronk doesn't even have to be the best tight end on this team, but he's already got a connection with Brady. So that's Brady's security safety blanket. Not sure we'll see the best Gronk we've seen, but Gronk will be Gronk. I think he'll come into the season fine, and I think he'll have a good season. He might not be the Gronk we remembered, but he'll be good enough for them. And they've got Howard and Bray to take the load off him if they need be. I mean, the one position running back is maybe a little suspect, but they did address that in the draft, getting the guy from Vanderbilt. Name's escaping me, but I remember when I watched Vanderbilt games, he was jumping off the screen. I think Vaughn was his last name. So they've got a couple others. It's by committee there, but we'll see what happens. And then, so I really think that team is super loaded on both sides of the ball, not just offense. And then I've got the Chiefs at number 2, Super Bowl champions, Patrick Mahomes. Everybody knows the Chiefs are going to be great again, as long as you've got Mahomes and he stays healthy. I know I ranked Deshaun over him the last episode, but with all the weapons this team has, as long as they stay healthy, they're going to be Super Bowl contender for sure. And then I've got Seattle at 3. I think this team was better than San Francisco was last year. They really should have beaten them. They should have swept San Francisco in the season series last year, but they lost barely at the end of the Week 17. And that would have given them home field advantage in the playoffs, which they would have definitely taken advantage of. So you've got Russell Wilson, one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and the team's still loaded with a lot of people. They didn't really lose many people, in my opinion. Still, the Seahawks are going to be great. Then I've got the Browns here at number 4. This is where everybody is. Everybody still there? I feel like I'm talking to myself because I don't hear anything going on.
I'm still here.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. I didn't hear like a single breath, so I was worried like my internet went out again. But
You're just talking to yourself.
yeah, I was really worried because I don't want to have to repeat all this. But the Browns. So the thing with the Browns is, well, first of all, I'll say this, especially with Eric's list. Eric's taken a very conservative approach with his top 10, basically being all playoff teams from last year except the Buccaneers. I mean, we know that's just not going to happen. We don't know which are going to fall off and which are going to rise, but I don't want to just copycat last year's season standings in my top 10 list. So I have the Browns at number 4 because I think a lot of things went wrong for the Browns last year that got fixed in this offseason. First of all, you had a head coaching change. Freddie Kitchens, the coach of last year, a lot of people said was a joke. Like, why is he even a head coach? So that team was just messed up all around, starting with the head coach. And then also, as far as their team, they had no offensive line to protect Mayfield. Somehow they still had the league leading rusher with Chubb, but they had no protection at all. They had OBJ who had no connection with Mayfield. They just had a bunch of really great pieces, but they didn't gel together or whatever, and they got exposed, and the wheels kind of fell off the ship or whatever. And the ships don't have wheels, but you get my point here. Like it was just a train wreck of a season. It was just
that's a quote. Ships don't have wheels.
That is a quote. That is a quote, guys. You might hear that again. Some episode that reference. But no, I mean the really, it just was a train wreck type of season, and there's always going to be a team that had that last year that's going to make the playoffs and do great things. And I think that's the Browns, and I've looked at their schedule. They have a really easy schedule. And then I said too, the things got corrected. They really improved their offensive line, adding Conklin and Jedrick Wills, who I saw as the best tackle in the draft, and Conklin's a great right tackle. So they just vastly improved Mayfield. I think. Ooh, that didn't sound good. That sounded like someone dropped a Skype call. But anyways, the tackles are going to be great there. The offensive line's going to be great. They've got Hunt and Hill, a two-headed monster backfield. OBJ, Landry, added Austin Hooper, but they drafted a great tight end in the draft as well, and they have Njoku from last year. So the tight end spot's loaded, the receiver spot's loaded. I still think Mayfield can be really good. I think last year there was just too many distractions. It was really set up to failure. I didn't buy into it last year when it happened because all the hype and everything was getting to those guys. But they're humbled, I think. I think they're going to come out ready to prove it. And like I said, their schedule's super easy, aside from their divisional opponents, I think. They're gonna be really good. I think they'll win the AFC North. I'm gonna predict that. It's not gonna be popular. Everybody's gonna think you're
Are
stupid.
you gonna lock that?
I'm not gonna lock it because my locks are terrible. But like, I'm not gonna lock anything on this list because I know if I do, it's just not gonna happen. So I'm not gonna do that. But Connor's trying to bait me.
You don't want to jinx the Buccaneers.
No, I don't want to jinx any of this. I'm gonna lock the Jags. Go 0-16, guys. Hopefully the reverse.
Watch that actually happen too.
Oh my god.
Tank
Well,
for
if it
Trevor.
does-
Tank for Trevor.
If it does, we'll get Trevor. So I guess it might not be that bad. But and then I've got the Saints at 5. I think they'll be pretty good. I don't think they'll be as good as the Buccaneers, but they are the Saints, so they're gonna be good. I just think when it gets to the playoff time, they're gonna shrink like they always do. It seems like, but then I've got the Ravens at 6. I think they're gonna take a step back. Nate said he thinks Lamar is going to improve. I don't see how he can possibly improve off his season last year with 1,200 rushing yards and all the passing yards and everything. I
Kinda
get
like
it.
what
They're
happened
good.
to Mahomes
Yeah,
this season.
I know. I get it. They're a good team and all, but I see them taking a step back. The Browns did beat them once last year, despite how bad that Browns season was. So I don't think the Browns are afraid of them. Like Connor was talking about the Steelers, they're not going to be afraid of them. So they're set up for some divisional round losses, in my opinion. And like, I just don't think it's going to be possible out of the kind of season he had last year. I could be wrong, but it's just hard for me to put them there, especially after watching their last game they played against the Titans. People are super hyped about this team, but kind of like the Browns, I think they're getting so much hype and craze and stuff. It's kind of ridiculous. But moving on out of the Titans, I could be wrong with this one again. I hope I am, but are they going to be 8-8 Titans? I don't know if that's going to be enough to get 7th on this list here. If they end up 8-8, I don't think so. But maybe 9-7.
How many seasons is it that they're been 9-7 now?
I don't. Yeah, 9. I guess they are 9-7. So if they're 9-7, they could very well end up on the spot here, maybe a little bit lower. But we'll see what happens. They're 9-7 or 10-6 or 8-8. That's going to be, you look at those 3 records and you have a 99% chance I'm going to be right about that. The Vikings I've got down here, I think they're going to win the NFC North. They probably have the best team in that division. That division's pretty weak in my opinion. So I like the Vikings. They really should have last year. I don't know how Green Bay won 13 games. The Vikings beat the Saints in the playoffs, which is pretty impressive too. So I've got the Vikings up here. And then the controversial one, the 49ers, I've got at 9. I almost didn't even want to put them at 9. I thought about leaving them off this list because we see it all the time. All these great teams that go to the Super Bowl and lose in like a heartbreaking way, they just the next year end up not making the playoffs or just looking terrible. We saw it with it's escaping me, but trust me, the Rams. I mean, it happens. A couple of years even before that,
the Panthers.
The Panthers. I'm not sure if the Falcons made the playoffs the next year after that Super Bowl loss, but if they did, it's not memorable because they probably didn't win a game in the playoffs. So really the whole history thing of the Super Bowl loser coming back, and especially in recent years, just that being just a down, that's just going to weigh this team down, in my opinion. And they did lose some pieces in free agency in the offseason. They lost Breida, their running back. They lost DeForest Buckner on the defensive line. They replaced him with Kinlaw, but Buckner or Kinlaw, I think everybody would take DeForest Buckner. So they lost, I think, too many pieces in this offseason, the 49ers did. And like I said, I'm just not a fan of teams that lose the Super Bowl coming back into the next year. And they very easily could miss the playoffs. They play in a pretty tough division. So they could. I'm going to put them on this list for the respect of the season they had last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they missed the playoffs. I definitely don't think they're going to have as good of a season as they did last year. That's why I got them at 9 at best. And then I've got the Steelers at 10 here. The defense was really good last year from the Steelers. I don't think it's going to be possible to have as great of a defensive season as they did. We know defenses rise and fall like the ocean tides, but Big Ben's coming back, so I think that's going to be really good for them. We'll see if he stays healthy the full season. And if they get Cam as their backup, I'll feel a lot better about having a quality backup. But no, the Steelers, they're a good team. They're well coached, so they'll probably be a top 10 team.
A lot of Steelers fans wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I know. It's like we can rant about Steelers fans thinking about their coach like Packers fans think about their quarterbacks. Like, but in the kind of in the opposite way. But you get what I'm saying here. The Steelers still be good.
No,
yeah.
I was say trust me. The fans like hate Mike Tomlin for some stupid reason. I don't know why, but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before.
You have, especially I've heard it. But yeah, the defense will be good. I don't think it'll be as good. Like, I don't think it's gonna make them jump up to the top 5 on this list because of their defense. I think it'll take a little bit of a step back, but the offense should take a better step forward. If you get what I'm saying there. So all in all, it's gonna be a top 10 team in my opinion. So that's my list, guys. Some exceptions I left off of here. I'm just not sold on their quarterbacks. Particularly Indy, Buffalo. Let me scroll through some other ones. Yeah, I guess that's it. But that's my list, guys. It's been kind of a longer episode than I thought. But if anybody has any of you guys have any last comments about these power rankings lists, like Connor and I really disagree on these, but like he said, we should probably save that for another episode.
Yeah, that Tampa Bay versus New Orleans debate, or really just the Tampa Bay debate, needs to be saved for another episode.
Yeah, for sure. And then the line will be drawn in the sand, and then Eric and Nate will just be like watching. And
yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna have my popcorn ready for that
one. But yeah, other than that though, guys, got some different takes for these lists here with the Browns and stuff. I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack, but I got to go with what I really believe, and I'm not just going to conform and put last year's standings here because this is what I think. So that is what it is, guys. It is what it is.
What was that?
That's that meme. But yeah. All right, guys. Nate, hope you had a good birthday, man. Hope you had a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this. And remember, be clutch.
Bye.
Yeah.
Peace.